Good evening and welcome to this week's national news segment brought to you by L28 News. I'm your host, Jacobo Garrido, and tonight we dive into three major stories shaping California's future: Governor Newsom's urgent plea for wildfire relief, Mayor Bass dismissing LA fire chief over response failures, and Trump administration's push to strip $4 billion from the state's high-speed rail project. Let's dive into this week's episode. All that and more when we return. Stay with us. L28 National News starts now. In the wake of one of the most devastating wildfire seasons in California history, Governor Gavin Newsom is calling on Congress to approve nearly $40 billion in federal aid to help Los Angeles and surrounding areas recover. The request follows a series of fires that tore through the state in January, leading to over $250 billion in economic losses and reducing 16,200 structures to ashes. Newsom's proposal seeks to allocate funds for disaster relief grants, infrastructure repairs, small business loans, and long-term housing assistance for displaced residents. However, the governor's request faces significant hurdles. Congress remains divided on disaster relief spending, with some lawmakers questioning whether California's repeated wildfire disasters should warrant continuous federal assistance. For affected residents, the aid package represents a critical lifeline. Without it, local governments will struggle to provide essential services, and homeowners could face years of delays in reconstruction. Newsom has called for urgent bipartisan action, warning that California's economy, infrastructure, and public safety are at risk without federal support. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass has made a decisive move in response to the growing public outrage over the handling of the recent Palisades and Eaton fires. On Tuesday, February 18th, she announced the removal of Fire Chief Kristen Crowley, citing a lack of preparedness and a failure to provide transparency following the wildfire crisis. At the center of the controversy is the Palisades fire, which burned thousands of acres and forced mass evacuations. City officials later revealed that on the day the fire ignited, more than 1,100 firefighters had been sent home, allegedly due to budget constraints and staffing decisions made by Crowley's office. Crowley, who became LA's first female fire chief back in 2022, defended her leadership, stating that staffing decisions were made based on prior risk assessments. However, public pressure mounted after residents and community leaders criticized the lack of immediate action and poor communication during evacuations. Mayor Bass has appointed Ronnie Villanueva, a longtime LAFD veteran, as interim fire chief. For LA residents, the firing signals a new era of accountability, but it also raises questions about whether systemic issues such as staffing shortages and budget cuts will continue to hinder the city's ability to respond to future disasters. The Trump administration has launched an official inquiry into California's high-speed rail project, setting the stage for a potential revocation of $4 billion in federal funding, a move that could cripple the state's decades-long effort to build a bullet train between Los Angeles and San Francisco. The California high-speed rail project was first approved by voters in 2008 with an estimated price tag of $33 billion and a projected completion date of 2020. Fast forward to today, and the project is now expected to cost over $106 billion, with the completion date pushed back to at least 2 more decades. Critics, including members of the Trump administration, have cited chronic delays, mismanagement, and cost overruns as justification for cutting federal ties to the project. Trump officials argue that California has failed to meet the original funding agreement, making it an unsustainable investment for federal taxpayers. However, California officials are pushing back against federal intervention, stating that the rail project is vital for the state's economic future and climate goals. The rail system is expected to reduce congestion, lower greenhouse gas emissions, and create thousands of jobs, benefits that could be lost if federal funding is withdrawn. If the Trump administration succeeds in pooling the funds, it could jeopardize the entire project, forcing state officials to seek alternative funding sources or scale back their vision for the rail network. For now, the debate rages on, with California's transportation future hanging in the balance. That wraps up tonight's national news segment here on L28 News. From Governor Newsom's push for wildfire relief, a leadership shakeup in LA's fire department, and new challenges for the state's high-speed rail project, we'll continue to keep you updated on these stories and more as they unfold. I'm Jacobo Garrido, and on behalf of the entire L28 team, thank you for tuning in, stay safe, and good night. If you want to stay informed on the latest news impacting our country, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel by scanning the QR code below.